Jorge Luis Borges is one of the most influential figures in 20th century literature. Destined to be a writer already at the age of 9, his entire life, which spanned almost all of the 20th century, was dedicated to books. Jorge Luis Borges was a shy man who longed for oblivion and who believed that happiness existed somewhere between the pages of a book. His influence on the very way people think about reading and writing is incalculable. Fame reached him late, sometime in his 60s, when he was already blind. It traveled beyond his native Argentina and acknowledged him in almost every language on earth. Jorge Luis Borges was born in Argentina, yet his literature belonged to the world. Marking forever 20th century literature, his collection of short stories, poems and essays have become landmarks of Latin American fiction. In all, he won 46 national and international awards, starting with the Formentor Prize and including the Cervantes Prize. By the 1970s, international recognition was bestowed upon him. Though the Nobel Prize for Literature always escaped him, Borges was then being recognized around the world as one of the great writers of the 20th century. When he became blind and could no longer read the books he so loved, he found love and a life companion in Maria Kodama. All the great themes of literature were his: time, space, and the curious paradox of being human in a mysterious and incomprehensible world. Jorge Luis Borges was born on August 24, 1899, in a Buenos Aires he would later make his own. Among his ancestors were warriors and poets who contributed to Argentina's history. The paternal grandfather, Colonel Borges Lafinur, died in battle, leaving his grandson a dream of heroic destinies. From Fanny Haslam, his English grandmother, he inherited a love of the English language. But it was in his father's library that Borges discovered the mysterious and endless pleasures of the world of books.
I feel that I've never left this library, that I've always been there, reading and rereading the same authors that I read as a child. I read a book then that had been published a few years earlier, The First Men in the Moon by H.G. Wells. I read Kipling, Stevenson. I also read The 1001 Nights, and all those books have had a great importance to me. I also read some very bad books, but as a child you can't really tell the difference.
Borges' father was a lawyer who always dreamt of being a writer. He encouraged his son in his love of literature. By the age of 9, the boy had already written several literary works, including a handbook of Greek mythology in English.
The intelligence, his work, the way he learned and lived. Oh, this is the influence and the heritage of his father. Me? I was the hand. Only the hand.
For Buenos Aires, the city in which he was born, Borges invented his own mythology. The family house stood in the neighborhood of Palermo, a colorful area peopled by emigrants and hoodlums, where he lived from the age of 2 until the age of 13. His sister Nora shared with Borges a strong sense of fantasy, but her visions were not violent. Their world, for her, was the quiet, protected haven of the family house. But for Borges, even the cool, dark house was not without its terrors. Childhood gave Borges fears and fantasies that would haunt him all life long, and which he brings up again and again in his writing. Alone with his books, the boy feared more than anything else the presence of another self reflected in the polished furniture and dark mirrors of the house. He feared that one day his mirror would reflect a face and it would not be his.
Today, at the tip of so many and perplexing, wandering years under the varying moon, I ask myself, what whim of fate made me so fearful of a glancing mirror? Mirrors in metal, and the masked mirror of mahogany, that in its mist of a red twilight hazes the face that is gazed on as it gazes. They prolong this hollow, unstable world in their dizzying spider's web. Sometimes, in the afternoon, they are blurred by the breath of a man who is not dead.
Mirrors reflect death or the promise of death. But another more joyful symbol appeared in Borges' childhood. His mother often took him and his sister to the zoo, and there Borges refused the games and rides to seek out the tiger. Tigers, in their terrible elegance, reflected for the child the promise of an adventurous life.
Childhood passed away, and the tigers and my passion for them grew old, but still they are in my dreams. At that submerged or chaotic level, they keep prevailing. And so, as I sleep, some dream beguiles me, and suddenly I know I am dreaming. Then I think, this is a dream, a pure diversion of my will, and now that I have unlimited power, I am going to cause a tiger. Oh, incompetence! My dreams never managed to breed forth the longed-for beast.
Borges' dream world extended from the house in Palermo to the city around it and out into the endless continuity of the Pampas. Here in the open country he discovered another aspect of Argentina's mythology, the land where his ancestors had fought, the vast sky and the gauchos whose romantic lives Borges said he envied, the quiet country estates and the rows of eucalyptus trees, the long siestas. Borges already then favoured epics. He admired the warriors, the men of action, those who performed deeds that he would never perform, deeds he imagined had once been performed by his military ancestors. Swords or daggers, he felt that these weapons were themselves protagonists in the stories he loved to read. Adventures like the Odyssey or the Arabian Nights. Stories that took place on the other side of the world, but which, thanks to the magic of books, now took place here in his own place